So in that intro sequence, you guys watched me unbox a brand new bag as well as some other camera gear. And the reason for that, I'm actually going to save that for the end of the video. So if you want to know what's going on, then make sure you stick around. But I thought I would take this opportunity to do a what's in the bag. And frankly, the only reason I'm doing this video is I really didn't have time to make anything else. I admitted it. Most other people won't admit that, but I didn't have much time and I still wanted to be able to create something for you guys and really wanted to beef up an announcement for what I have at the end. Now that we've gotten the full transparency out of the way, let me go ahead and dive right into this. We're going to keep this very simple. I'm not going to talk to you guys too much about accessories and other things. I'm going to talk specifically about the bags I use and the equipment I use. So typically I am traveling with a Shimoda Action X 55. You guys usually see that backpack on me. It's been with me on all of my major shoots, and it's usually actually what I use for a lot of my shoots here locally if I'm going to be doing some video work for somebody or doing some photography work. I can pack everything in there really well. Typically, I strap my big lens on the back when I go out, and I mean, I absolutely love that bag. It's super comfortable, the way it straps around your hips. I mean, I have no complaints. Why would I go ahead and get a new bag? And the reason really comes down to I'm doing something for the first time and I am deathly afraid of having my gear be taken from me and put underneath an airplane. Typically, I've traveled with my Shimoda backpack and I haven't had any issues in the past, but where I'm going, I don't know if I'm going to run into problems or not, and I'd rather be prepared. Also, I know fully that I'm not going to really need a backpack where I'm going. I'm going to either have my gear out with me or it'll be in a vehicle like going around. So I don't need to have that backpack. So the reason I chose the Think Tank is first off, it fits all of the needs and requirements that the airliner I'm traveling on has for a carry-on item. I like to carry all of my gear with me as much as possible. I typically will check like my tripod and things like that, but most of the time I want to keep everything I possibly can with me on my person. This bag can fit my 500 millimeter lens, which I'll talk to you guys here in a second, as well as all the other camera gear that I'm planning on bringing. It can fit up to a 17-inch laptop. It has a bunch of different storage compartments, and it also locks, which I really like that it does that. And then also, since I got online and I registered through the Think Tank website, if it gets lost, there's this little badge on the back of it that states that people can call a number and actually turn my bag in, and Think Tank will step in and help give me my bag back. Now, that's obviously relying on a good Samaritan out there if something, God forbid, happens to me in my bag and we get separated, but I think it's still a pretty neat thing to do. Now on to the camera equipment. My main piece of equipment that I'm going to be bringing on this trip is my Sigma 500 millimeter f4 lens. I bought this lens just about a year ago. The reason I bought it is I could adapt it to my Canon body, and for the price point that I was able to get this lens at, I actually bought it used off of KEH for about $5,000. Typically a lens like this, if I bought it from the Canon family, and I could have bought an older version of a Canon lens for about the same price, but if I'm looking for the specs and the lightness of it, meaning how light this lens is compared to older bodies, if I was going to try to get the Canon equivalent, I'd be more in about the $12,000 to $13,000 range, which I wasn't willing to do at the time. I have absolutely loved this lens. It is super sharp. I've had no issues with any of the images I've captured. I can handhold it pretty easily. And again, I mean, I have no issues with this lens. It's been absolutely great. I went ahead and threw a camo sleeve on it just to help protect it. And I think it looks cooler, to be honest. Now, going to my main workhorse lens that will be going with me is also my 15 to 35 Canon lens. I use this for almost all of my landscape and also my vlog videos that you guys usually watch. It's a very versatile lens. It's super sharp. The f2.8 apertures gives me a lot of flexibility in terms of exposure. I have no complaints with it. The distortion on the edges when I'm shooting super wide is minimal. I mean, you're going to get that a lot with wider lenses. But what's also cool with it being super wide, I can actually still use screw-on filters, and I don't see any issues with the filters I use with it. I've had that lens now for a couple years, and a lot of my work that I produce has been with that lens. Now, let's talk about my second lens that I am actually probably not bringing on this trip, and that is my Canon RF 50mm f1.2 lens. This lens is great. I'm actually currently working on selling this lens though, just because it doesn't fit in my workflow as much anymore. I use it a lot for my video production work. And I just am not doing as much of that right now. I'm more out in the field. I'm doing a lot more wide scenes. So, and most of my video work has actually even been real estate based. So I'm needing wider lenses or more telephoto style lenses. So I'm actually working on selling this lens and going towards something that fits my gear a little bit more. I do have one complaint with it though. It does focus hunt a lot. And that's one of the reasons I'm also looking to go away from it. Is I've used it in the past as a secondary camera angle, and I've actually missed focus quite a bit if I'm not paying attention because it likes to focus hunt. The motor in it is also super loud. Other than that, the image is really sharp. The f1.2 aperture is just amazing. And it's been a great lens, but it's served its need and I don't really quite need it anymore. Which now leads me to rental gear. I went ahead and rented a Canon RF 28-70 f2 lens, and that's actually what I'm shooting on right now, just because I've always wanted to try this lens, and my first impressions are holy crap. The reason I got this lens is the versatility of 28-70 at an f2 aperture is going to be awesome when I'm out traveling. I'm going to be able to grab that out of the bag and be able to shoot widescapes and also get some tight shots and let in a lot of light. It's very sharp. The focusing seems like it's great so far. I'm not going to sit here and give you guys an in-depth review, but I think it's going to be a very handy piece of kit for where I'm going. Now, the thing is, it is very big and bulky and heavy, which is why I'm not going to bring my 50 mil because it kind of fits that need or fits that focal range, and the size of it is going to be a pretty bulky, so I'm not going to try to add another lens in there. The next lens I'm going to go with that I rented is a Canon 70-200 f4 lens. I've actually owned this lens in the past and I loved it. It's small, it's light, it's compact, and frankly at f4, when you're shooting usually at the end of the range of that at 200 mil, I get plenty of bokeh for what I need. And for the size savings compared to the 70-200 and back in the day, the price savings I got, it was just worth it. For this trip, I didn't rent the 70-200 f2.8 just because I don't really need 70-2.8 because I can get 70 f2 with this lens. And the 70-200 focal range at f4, I was more needing something light and compact and also still giving me that focal range. Now let's talk about camera bodies. I have been shooting on the Canon R5 now since it came out. I've never really run into too many issues with it overheating or anything like that. A lot of the newer firmwares have actually even gotten rid of that. Usually when I'm doing my video work, I'm shooting and recording with a Ninja V Plus recorder. So I don't even record through the camera, and that's always bypassed the overheating. The image resolution I get with it when I'm out shooting stills has just been awesome. I actually took out a Fuji GFX 100S last fall on some of my fall photography trips, and I was impressed with that, but I found myself actually liking going back to the standard full frame lens with the image quality that I'm able to get. I am actually still able to produce large prints with it. The bang for the buck that you get with the camera, I mean, obviously you pay a lot of money. It is just second to none for me. And more importantly for me too is I'm a very much hybrid shooter. I do a lot of video and do a lot of photos. So I need something that can be pretty darn good at both. And this camera checks both of those boxes for me. Now, my camera is having some issues, and it might just be because this time last year, knocked it over. So when I go to use the shutter dial, it doesn't always respond. So I sometimes have to use the back touch on the screen and adjust the shutter speed. I need to get it looked at, but I got quoted like $600-700 for it, and I'm just not ready to spend that money because it's still functional for what I need. But with that being said, I went ahead and rented another Canon R5 body because I wanted 2 camera bodies on this trip. And instead of going with something like an R3 or maybe even an R6. I wanted something I'm familiar with that I can go ahead and set up all the same settings, and there's going to be no question I know how to use this camera, and it's going to perform to my expectations. So I'll be taking a new Canon R5, and then also I have my Canon R5 that will be on this trip with me, but mine is actually probably going to be more backup, and the other one's going to be my primary, just because my shutter dial might cause me some issues. Yeah, so why am I getting all this gear then? Well, actually, I've been lying to you the last couple of weeks. I have not been home. I'm already back when you guys are watching this. I don't like to usually make a big announcement when I'm gone, just for safety reasons. But the last couple of weeks, I've actually been in South Africa. And at the time of this recording, I have expectations for what's going to happen with the trip. But I have no idea what's going to happen. So future me is going to give you guys a breakdown probably next week about that. But I'm actually going to South Africa for a few different reasons. One of the reasons is actually to do some photography. I'm going to get to do a little bit. I'm actually traveling with my father-in-law and a group of gentlemen that are involved with some churches and some other religious organizations over there in South Africa. I'm heavily involved with my church here at home. My father-in-law is actually the pastor of the church. My friend and I, we have a business that we help other small churches with their tech and audio and all that. So I'm very much involved in that world. And so being able to tag along on this trip is going to be awesome. We're going to be able to do a conference while we're out there. I'm going to be able to network with some of the other churches. And then the last bit of it is I'm actually going to get to do some hunting while I'm out there too. I'm a big outdoorsman. I'm a wildlife conservationist, but I'm also a hunter. I've grown up hunting and fishing. It's just been a part of my family and what we've done. And I'm honestly being able to travel over there and to learn these animals and to experience their habitat the way that we're going to get to. I'm just looking forward to it. So I probably will have some content about that too. But that's it. I'm not going to ramble because I'm severely behind on a couple things for work that I have to get done before I leave. And I leave in like 2 days, which is kind of crazy to believe. So I actually need to start packing. So let me do that. And next week, guys, I will talk to you about this video. Or about my trip, and tell you kind of what's coming down the pipeline after that. If you guys are new, please consider hitting the subscribe button. For those of you guys that have been watching my videos to this point, thanks for coming back and hanging out again. But I'll see you guys next week. 2 weeks for me, but next week for you. Peace out.